Courtney, welcome to Halloween Daily, where every day is Halloween. Thank you so much for hanging out and talking to us today.
I love a world where every day is Halloween. Yes, please.
Well, then you are right at home, right here at
Yeah.
Halloween Daily. You're among friends here, absolutely. So let's talk about Consumed. I watched it last night. This is an awesome new creature feature on one level, and then it's got all kinds of other interesting things happening on multiple levels. There's a lot to digest here. I'm curious, when you first read this script, what was it about this character and this project that spoke to you loudest and really made you want to go face a Wendigo out in the woods?
Yeah. I think for this one, and it's funny that you mentioned like, the horror element of, like getting out there and being amongst the Wendigo. I think what actually drew me into this, and I think would be, surprising for some people to hear, is it's a really beautiful script in a lot of ways. Because there's a lot of elements of suffering and of loss and of real grief throughout. That was something that drew me in. It's not always the case with horror films that you're going to experience that, but I think some of the best ones really weave that in with, again, creatures and gore and those amazing gags that we all love.
Absolutely. And I was going to say that some of my favorite horror films do just that. They work on
Yeah.
multiple levels. I think that most of the classics that withstand the decades and fans still gravitate to, it's because of that, because they work on
Yeah.
multiple levels aside from the obvious surface stuff, which I'd say this delivers that too. I was also curious in your acting on the day, like how much of that, because you could take some of this creature stuff and we talked to Mitchell and Phil about this, that you could almost take it as metaphor and because there's this cancer theme that runs throughout with you and Devin's character. How much of that on the day is in your head as far as, or are you just kind of reacting to it on that surface level? I'm just curious on the set.
I think for me, because a lot of the film is, obviously we have an amazing cast that I was acting opposite, but there's a lot of times where it's just me and it's just me in the woods. So for me, I wanted to kind of carry that sense of grief and of loss almost as like a ball in my stomach. And it's sort of similar to that feeling of dread, and it just to have that kind of build throughout. And my hope is that the audience kind of feels that weight the entire time, and you feel it growing and getting worse, and you really just at a certain point, you kind of just want, like, show me the worst, like get it over with. Like you just see that feeling, the anticipation in some ways is almost worse from an audience perspective in the best way possible. So for me, I definitely wanted to carry a lot of that throughout. So for me, like just really holding on to what she's been through, not only that we're seeing in the woods, but what she's suffered prior to entering the woods.
Absolutely. And I do feel that, you feel that sense of dread. And like you mentioned, I mean, it's a very small cast. And I was, obviously casting is so important, but you're in pretty much every frame, I think, almost throughout the film. I mean, was there any trepidation or hesitation to take this on, or was it just as soon as you got the opportunity, you were ready and wanted to jump in?
I immediately wanted to embody Beth. So for me, it was a yes, 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 please get me out there. Like whatever it takes, let's go. I'm ready. I think once you get there on the day, there's, some of those days where it's just you and you're like, okay, I hope this is going well. You just kind of, you hope for the best. I think there's, I've worked on projects with large casts and with these amazing sets and all these, different locations and things like this. And this is a film where you really don't have some of those things almost to like hide behind. There's a real vulnerability of, when you see us in the woods and you're seeing three people in the woods, it really was that. I mean, there's not a soundstage really happening for all those shots. There's no, parking lot right there for the most part. We're hiking in, or we're being, driven into these locations. And any sort of elements that are happening out there, we're all experiencing it. From an actor perspective, it was, it made it easy to feel immersed. From a crew perspective, it obviously presented some challenges. So a big shout out to our crew for going through that.
And I mean, I felt that immersion as just as a viewer watching it, because I mean, and they've got that gorgeous, super wide anamorphic screen
Yeah.
that really I think works, and you feel it kind of get more claustrophobic as the
Yeah.
film goes on. Another cool effect that I liked. Um, your character goes through a lot, and I'm watching it. I'm like, man, they really put you through a lot on this. What would you say was the most challenging part of the shoot for you?
Um, the physicality of the role is definitely something that, I knew going in was going to be probably more than I've taken on before. I've obviously, like I said, been in the horror space, but this is something where, it really did present itself as being a physically demanding role. I was very lucky that we had an amazing stunts team, stunts coordinator, and people that were really making sure that, I couldn't really be doubled for a lot of it. So just making sure it was done in the safest way possible. Um, but in terms of like the biggest challenge on this one for me, it was being willing to go a little bit further with this character in some of those scenes where, it's myself and Devin, and we're really just, sort of locked into each other in conflict in a lot of ways. So being able to work with a scene partner that's willing to take it there was a challenge, but it's the challenge you hope for as an actor.
And I'm glad you mentioned Devin. I mean, of course, we're big fans. He's kind of a genre icon in his own
Yes.
right. I mean, we've seen him in so many cool projects over the years. Were you kind of geeking out a little bit, getting to work so intimately with him? And he does a great job in this as well.
Yeah, I mean, in a word, absolutely. The second that I found out he was cast, I was like, obviously over the moon. He's so talented. He's obviously been in the horror space for ages. He's not only that, he's not only like a horror actor, he's like very much in the community. Like he is a horror fan himself, and it really shows in his performances and his choices and the way that his career has beautifully progressed as he is so gifted at that. I've obviously like known his work since I was very small, and he was also, would have been
Mhm.
small as well. So it's really, that's one of those people that you are so excited to meet, and you hope they're just as amazing in person. And he's obviously far exceeded that, any expectation I could have had.
Well, that's great to hear that he actually, sometimes they say don't meet your heroes, and
Yes.
we always love hearing the positive side of that. That it is good to meet your heroes sometimes. That's
Yeah.
awesome to hear that. And a lot of times with these horror movies, and they're so demanding and so emotional sometimes, but we always hear about these fun stories as soon as they say cut. What was your favorite memory from the set?
Ooh. Oh, I'm trying. Most of the ones I'm thinking of, I can't say because it gives too much away. You know what? There's some moments where I'm being maybe this gives it away. Oh, I don't know what I can say. Okay, I would say there's a couple moments where I'm really kind of being pulled through the woods, not by my own choice. And those are, you're selling the horror of the moment of this. Oh my God, what is happening? What creature is this? What's possibly pulling this? But then on the day, you're quite literally, you've got like a children's sled on your back and someone's pulling your legs through the woods, and it's fun. It's, at that point it becomes like summer camp. So those were ones where like, when we're rolling, I'm screaming. And then as soon as we call cut, it's a lot of like, wee.
Awesome. I love it. Well, again, I love the movie. For our last minute or two here, if you'll indulge us, as you can see, every day's Halloween, and we mentioned it at the top. What is Halloween to you? Do you celebrate? I mean, you mentioned it at the top, so I've got an idea what the answer is. But what's Halloween mean to you?
I mean, I'm fully invested in the not only the coziness of the season, which is the overshadowing thing. I think the nice thing about Halloween is the lead up to it is you really get to like lean into it. Obviously, for you, every day is Halloween.
Yeah.
For me, I start like leaning into it the second the leaves start changing. And so I have this list of films that I watch every single year without fail. And I think it's always fun to like pick like which one are we going to watch tonight. And to have that sort of tradition, to me, it's an even larger tradition than something like Christmas or that, because there's just so many more films to pull from, and there's so many more like, ooh, I get to watch this again. So I have my whole list that I get to go through every year, and I really enjoy that.
Awesome, awesome. I love hearing all of that. And then our final question, or our two-parter, we always ask your favorite costume you've ever worn and your favorite candy or treat.
Ooh. Okay, favorite costume is I bought a secondhand full-size cockroach costume at Goodwill, I think maybe 12 years ago, for $10. And it's got wings, it's got multiple, legs, it's got the big antennae.
Awesome.
And I've probably worn that costume like 8 or 9 times. I've definitely gotten my money's worth on that. So that's my favorite costume. I live in New York, so that's a really, that's an easy one to throw on any day of the year. But especially for Halloween. And then favorite candy. Can I say brands? That doesn't matter. We're okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, good, good. Okay, good. I'm not going to get in trouble from Major Chocolate here. I do love a Twix bar. I'll say I love it, but a full size. None of that, no fun size. I want the
Yeah.
full size.
There we go. There we go. I love that too. Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Awesome job in Consumed. I know horror fans are going to love it, and you're great in it. And instead of saying goodbye, since every day's Halloween, I just always wrap by saying Happy Halloween.
Hey, happy Halloween, Matt. Thank you.